The Laura Ingraham Show.
I'm sorry, but I think that one, of all the things that were said at the press conference, oh, yeah, another real beaut. Oh, that was one of my favorite. Like, my staff, LifeZet, I left actually to go over to the White House. What time did I leave? I think I left like 10 minutes before I was supposed to get there. It was really late. So I was going over to the White House, and all my guys, all the writers, all the producers, everyone is watching this press conference. I'm like, guys, back to work. Like, no, we're watching this. We're watching this takedown. But one thing that I have to say is really rich is to listen to the people complaining about Trump's taking on fake news. They're whining and melting down today. The people who sound unhinged are the people reacting to Trump. The very people who didn't see the rise of Trump, the very people who, hours before the polls closed, were definitively saying Hillary was going to be the victor. The very people who were brushing off any thought that crowd size was going to be determinative or predictive of turnout size. Remember every time Trump said, look at these crowds. And like, oh, he's still talking about the crowds. Remember they were just discounting that as any indicator of how Trump would do at the polls. And what else did they do? They kept saying, oh, look at Gallup. Gallup shows Hillary up. Look at what Mr. UVA is saying. I always forget his name. Who?
It's Larry Sabato.
Larry Sabato. Why do he's like a name that I can't remember. I don't know why.
He even, I know, he's
a UVA
guy,
I was about
to say,
I can't remember him. Well, you know why? Because his crystal ball
wasn't great.
They had the crystal ball graphic for Larry Sabato. The crystal ball shattered.
Little off.
He had it gamed out that Trump was going to lose. So all the same, I'm not talking. Sabato's kind of fun. I don't mind Sabato, but all of these people who got it wrong still don't see what's going on here. Still do not see why most Americans tune them out and want to hear more from Trump. Peter Alexander. Well, you said you've had the biggest electoral victory since Andrew Jackson or whatever the heck it was. Yeah, Trump botched that. He botched that. That wasn't a great moment. That was a great moment for Trump. Who cares? Who cares? Really? So you gotcha. You gotcha on the Electoral College. It's not as big as, HW's or. And they dine out on that all day long on cable news. All day long they're dining out on that. Come on.
It was an airing of grievances. It was Festivus. It was complaints about the media. At one point he said the leaks were real, but the news is fake, which doesn't make any sense whatsoever.
The news is real, but what is he saying? I think Jake seems like he's wound a little too tight lately. Yeah. Do you notice that? He seems a little tense, Jake does.
He does. There's one more bite we've got from Tapper, too.
Let's hear it. Oh, we don't have it. I love that. Don't you love when you throw to sound bites and they're not there? That's always fun. Because that wasn't a long press conference or anything. We didn't have any great sound there.
You said that the leaks are real, but the news is fake. I guess I don't understand. It seems that there's a disconnect there. If the information coming from those leaks is real, then how can the stories be fake?
No, the reporting is fake.
And if I may ask, I just want to ask
Tim, you know what it is? Here's the thing. The public isn't, they read newspapers, they see television, they watch. They don't know if it's true or false because they're not involved. I'm involved. I've been involved with this stuff all my life, but I'm involved. So I know when you're telling the truth or when you're not.
Well, see, what now is Trump's on the inside, and he sees, and this has happened to me where I'm actually involved in something, and then I see how it's reported. It's amazing when you are on the inside. Then you look at some of these reports. These people have no idea what they're talking about, and to some extent, they do get leaks from this person or that person, or someone wants to put their own spin on a story. I get that. That's happened throughout political history. But the bottom line is Donald Trump is appealing to people beyond the Acela corridor. In the Acela corridor of Boston, New York, and Washington, they were horrified. They were horrified. The Morning Joe panel, one after the other. The Morning Joe people were, I was worried about their sanity at one point today.
He's going to have his 37, 38% hardcore support, Mike.
There's no doubt about that, Joe. There is no doubt about that. That the base of his support, whether it's 35%, 40%, they are not going anywhere. They're going to stick with him. But yesterday, the first 35 minutes of that press conference was watching a president of the United States who has lost his grip on reality.
Yeah, the ending was the key part of that. He's lost touch with reality. Who's lost touch with the people? 855-40-LAURA. Who has lost touch with the people? The media, who are supposed to respond to the people? Or Trump, who actually appealed to those working class Americans in Michigan and Pennsylvania, Ohio, and Wisconsin? Now, do you think those people are sitting there stroking their chin every time Trump answers a question from fake news? Or do you think they're looking at the media and thinking, God, these guys they're not on our side. They seem to be undermining what the president wants to do. All we're hoping for is a better life.
If you are a hungry child in Appalachia or the inner city, if you are an unemployed worker in a hollow shell of a steel town, that's not a president who seemed rather focused on your particular needs and wants. That's a president focused on his bad press. It was unhinged. It was wild. And I can't believe that there are Republicans and on Capitol Hill and in the White House who don't understand that might play well with the 44% of the population that voted for the president.
But where's the but? Where's the rest of the bite? Where is it? He continued. He continued there.
But a lot of Americans are going to watch that press conference and think, that guy is not focused on me. I don't even know what he's focused on.
Right. Well, I think in the end, the American people are really, really smart. And this tax reform starts getting rolled out next week, the week after, I guess early March. The Obamacare fix is in place. I want it to be a repeal. I'm with Rand Paul on that. And we start getting this infrastructure fund going, and we start seeing this improvements to our airports and our bridges. Stock market's way up. Consumer confidence is up. Wages, I predict by the end of the year, we'll have seen a rise in American wages. We'll start seeing our sovereignty, getting it back from our lax border enforcement. What does the media say? See, on the substance, they can't argue with him. They really can't. They'll have a little gotcha moment here or there, as they did yesterday. But on the substance of what he wants to do, which is his strength, they don't have much to say. Do you notice that? They really don't have much to say.
Well, I've heard the word terrifying used, and I think that's basically the impact. I mean, imagine watching this in Berlin, imagine watching it in London, imagine watching it in Paris, imagine watching it in Peoria. You realize that this is the man in the most important and most powerful job on earth.
Well, imagine them in Paris, imagine them in Berlin. This is like a Dancing in the Street song. I was half thinking Dave Bowie and Mick Jagger were going to start singing. Imagine them in Berlin. Well, you know what I imagine? I imagine America back to work. That's what I'm imagining. I'm imagining a president who doesn't take the obfuscation and the bias from the media sitting down. That's what I'm imagining. I'm imagining more Americans who see through the headlines that are false and phony. That's what I'm imagining. And I think little by little, we're going to see this movement, this populist movement that is conservative at its core, broaden and expand. You know, Trump's always going to be a bit of a brawler. He also talked about he wants to unite the country early on in that speech yesterday. He wants the country to be united. He realizes what he's up against. He's up against an old guard in Washington that doesn't want change. He's up against a dominant media culture that despises him. He's up against leakers who have to be rooted out. He gets that. He understands that. And I dare say he was having a little fun yesterday. I was worried at the beginning. Let me tell you what I didn't care for at the beginning. I don't like it when he looks down and reads. I'm not wild about that. You know, they have a new communications guy in there who's going to be more of an organizational person, according to Sean Spicer, that was tweeted out by the New York Times today. And Sean Spicer told me on the record that he's this guy Dubke, Mike Dubke, I think Mike is his first name. Drew knows, I'm sure. That he is, he seems like a little establishment guy to me. But I'm willing to see what he does. But for Spicer, he says, look, this is Trump out there having fun. I wouldn't be looking down though. I like Trump looking forward, not looking down. But he has to get through some of his prepared remarks. They were a little long for me. I think they went on too long. And then he does the interjections. I would have had Trump on one message. This is what's wrong with the labor regulations, labor rules. This is what we're going to do to get Americans back to work. And this is the man, Mr. Acosta, who's going to help us do it. And now we'll take questions from the press. I would have kind of kept it short, but they wanted to go through and do a recitation of what they think their first 4 weeks have meant and what they've accomplished in 3 or 4 short weeks. So that's what he wanted to quickly breeze through, but it went on a little long. So I wasn't wild about that part of it. And I think he was it seemed a little negative early on, but then, I was sitting at the White House. I should have just walked into the briefing room. I don't know why I didn't walk in. I should have. I was working. I was talking to folks and stuff. But I wish I had gone in and kind of seen the press faces. I should have done that. Why didn't I do that? But I kept thinking it's going to be over any minute. So I'm sitting there waiting, like it's going to be over any minute. It kept going. And then I realized I missed all the fun. A lot of the funny stuff happened toward the end. So
aren't you concerned, sir, that you are undermining the people's faith in the First Amendment, freedom of the press of this country, when you call stories you don't like fake news? Why not just say it's a story I don't like?
I do that.
Call it fake news.
I do that.
Undermining confidence in our news media.
Here's the thing. Okay, I want to see an honest press. When I started off today by saying that it's so important to the public to get an honest press. The public doesn't believe you people anymore. Now, maybe I had something to do with that. I don't know. But they don't believe you. If you were straight and really told it like it is, as Howard Cosell used to say, right? I would be your biggest booster. I would be your biggest fan in the world, including bad stories about me.
One thing I've got to say at that point, he has people all over the country going, yeah, you tell him. But he has the producers and the cable hosts and the political consultancy class who have dined out on this establishment's cozy relationship with the media. He has them all at Twitter. Oh, they're in Gene Robinson from the Washington Post. This is scary. This is really scary. Know what's scary? A press that gets it so wrong year after year and that still believes that. What's scary is that they still believe they have any credibility. They wouldn't in any other profession have credibility if they've gotten it wrong year after year after year. If you miss your numbers year after year after year in business, you don't have any credibility. You lose your credibility. If you don't put points on the board as a professional athlete, if you're playing on offense, you put no points on the board, you lose credibility as an athlete. But these people think that they should get it wrong year after year and never lose credibility. 855-40-LAURA. What'd you think of the presser? What'd you think of the press conference? Did you see bits and pieces? And Trump said he inherited a mess, a real mess. What does that mean? What kind of mess? And is he the man to clean it all up? Don't go away. 855-40-LAURA. Donna, Arizona, line 2. Everybody be quick on a Friday. We have lots of great guests coming up. Donna.
Thank you for taking my call. I just wanted to tell you that you're spot on about Trump support. I live out in Arizona, and it's a strong Trump support group here, our little community of New River.
Yeah.
And one day I was listening to the radio while I was driving to a Mesa, Arizona rally for Trump.
Yeah.
And you were describing the evening you were walking through the forest.
Oh, in Virginia.
The rally.
Yeah.
And it was just unbelievable. But while I was sitting there, you were asking everybody if they were going to suit up and support Trump. And I was like wearing my red, white, and blue sparkly dress, had my Trump flag, and I thought, yes, ma'am, I am suiting up.
Yeah, Wolverines. I love it. Donna, Wolverines is from Red Dawn, if you don't know. That's my secret call to all of you who are suiting up to victory for the American people and the American worker. Donna, I love that story. I appreciate it. Everybody be patient. I'll get through your calls. Peter King's going to stop by and a lot more. The media in a total meltdown over yesterday. I'm
doing fine, Laura. I'm sitting here watching this Russian spy ship. Hope they don't shoot at me, you know. So. Right at the coast of Long Island. Anyway.
I've got to say, Congressman, one thing, I've got to say what I'm really enjoying. I was over at the White House yesterday, and it was in the kind of the middle of the press conference. It was fun to watch the faces of the people as they came out. It was, wait a second, we've always been able to monopolize the news feeds and the flow to the American people of information. It seems like now we're being fact-checked. So I think they're all fact-checking Trump in real time, which is fine, and let them do that. They can do that. That's their role. But then he's kind of fact-checking them back on their own credibility. What did you make of the presser yesterday?
You know, I'm one of those guys. I thought it was good. I thought it was really great to see a real person up there who's not going to take any nonsense from these, supercilious, pompous people who take themselves so seriously and, somehow, the moral judges of society. I mean, it's great that he goes after them. And, the fact-checking, like the fact that George H.W. Bush got more electoral votes than he did, that stuff means nothing. I mean, I'm old enough to remember every time Ronald Reagan held a news conference, they would afterwards go through like 11 facts that he got wrong. But the American people like the overall message. They like the points he was making. And the incidental facts, they really are. Does it really matter whether George H.W. Bush got more electoral votes than Donald Trump? No, it doesn't. What he's trying to say is he won probably the greatest upset in American political history. And that's what American people know. And just the fact that he showed that he's in command, he's not taking any nonsense from them. And to me, it was a good performance. But what he has to do now, though, I think he at least stabilized things yesterday. He turned it around slightly. Now he's got to get everything under control. He's got to get a new head of the National Security Council, and he's got to get things established and, get the Supreme Court nomination moving forward. And his cabinet will be in place. They got to get the deputy secretaries appointed. And I was at the White House, I guess, the day I was there on Tuesday. And he's calm, he's relaxed. We talked about everything from General Kelly to the New York Mets. I mean, he's, I'm sorry, General Flint, the New York Mets. Also General Kelly, who I think, by the way, is going to emerge as one of the stars of this administration.
Oh, he's awesome.
Homeland Security.
No, I adore him. Not to dwell on the press conference, but I think what it does, again, Congressman King, is it reminds us of the great divide between the Manhattan, Washington, Boston, L.A., San Francisco elite class and the working class people of the United States, including the Long Island folks. Remember that big Long Island rally for Trump last year? That was massive. And those people have been saying, you know something? Sometimes he might be a little brash, and sometimes maybe even people think he's a bully, but he's our bully because we've been kicked around for long enough, and it's time for someone to call out these media people for their bias and their poor predictive qualities and start getting stuff done for the American people. Now, he has to actually get the stuff done. That has to be done. He can't just box with the press the whole time, for sure.
Right.
But I think that divide, to me, was never more clear than in the reaction to the press conference yesterday.
Yeah, it's funny you say that. Like, my district on Long Island is only 34% Republican. It's 35% minority, and it's pretty much low-income minority. Romney lost it by 5. McCain lost it by 4. Donald Trump won it by 9. I mean, that's a 14-point turnaround in a district which is basically a lot of working people, and it's because they like the style. And I agree with you about this whole cultural divide that's out there. And so Donald Trump does speak the language of real people. Last night I was at a retirement dinner for a detective, and everyone in the room that I spoke to who had seen the press conference, because I had just flown in from Washington. And I guess they assumed because I was in Washington, I was at the news conference, and I wasn't. But I had, like everybody else, watched it on television. They thought it was great. They thought it was terrific. That he's really pushed the media back. And the actual details, they weren't even that concerned about. It was just that Donald Trump had established himself, and he put the media in their place.
Yeah, he stepped forward. He didn't step back. When you're in the boxing ring, if you step back, you're going to be back on the ropes. You got to step forward. And every single one of these people in the media, for the most part, the mainstream media, they want to take him out. They want to take him down. They want to paint him as unstable. He's unhinged. And most people are just going about their daily business and like, seem pretty good to me. I mean, they just don't. But again, it's the bubble of the media going to their, the cocktail party circuit. Most people are just trying to put food on the table. And they know things have gone awry and they want someone to fix it. Let's talk about this Flynn issue a little bit. The report came out in the middle of the night because I saw it at 4 a.m. that Flynn would not be charged by the FBI. So contrary to what they were saying that he was lying or lied perhaps to the FBI, it doesn't look like there's any 1001 criminal violation for lying to the FBI. Yet again, the media was kind of cycling that over the last 2 days. And Flynn was really one of the strongest voices against this Iran deal and against the jihadi spread across the globe. And a lot of us saw it treated unfairly on his way out the door. I don't know what your thoughts are on that, but I don't like it when good people who stand against Islamists are pushed out the door by people in the White House.
Well, General Flynn didn't just stand against Islamists. He also stood against a lot of the power structure. Now, I've known Mike Flynn, I guess now for 4 or 5 years when he was head of the DIA. Mm-hmm. He was the Defense Intelligence Agency, and I was on the Intelligence Committee. He was the only one that I know of who was on to ISIS at such an early time. He was warning us almost what they were going to do, almost giving us a timeline as to what ISIS was going to do. And this was at the same time that the Obama administration was basically either ignoring ISIS or then saying they were the JV. Mike Flynn ended up being pushed out because he went public in his criticism of the Obama administration. He also was very much against the bureaucracy in the intelligence community. When people say Donald Trump's against the intelligence community, 99% of them are outstanding patriots. There are certain people in the bureaucracy in the upper levels, including John Brennan, former head of the CIA, who really do not conduct themselves the right way. Anyway, with General Flynn, I think what it did come down to, and I was at the White House the other day, is that whatever he told Mike Pence was not the full truth, and it put Mike Pence in an awkward spot, it put the administration in an awkward spot. I wish Mike Flynn, when it first came out, had just said, yeah, I did. To me, if you're the incoming National Security Advisor, you have an obligation to be speaking to your counterparts, not to be undermining the current administration, but to be at least letting them know that there could be changes, or that keep your powder dry for a few weeks. That to me is very legitimate. I mean, from my understanding is that's what the Obama administration did with Bashar al-Assad and Syria.
Yeah, I mean, it's so dumb. But I honestly think when it came to Flynn, they said, "Did you discuss sanctions?" And he said no, because he didn't. Yeah. It was raised to him like we've got to deal with the sanctions, and he said we're going to be in a few weeks, so we're going to review everything. That's not discussing sanctions. That's how I understand it went down. That's all I'm saying. So you don't take any. What do you take away from the ouster of Flynn? Nothing significant.
Well, to me, it's a loss. I mean, Mike Flynn is a patriot. I was a big supporter of Mike Flynn. I've stayed in contact with Mike Flynn since he left office. Back in 2014, whatever it is. And to me, he's actually advised me on different issues. I think he's a great guy. I think once it reached the stage it did, though, he probably did have to leave. Once it came out the way it did, the full truth wasn't told. But again, it was a bad deal. And by the way, this is no technical point when we talk about the leaks. We're not talking about whistleblowers here. We're talking about if this happened the way it appears, and I have to be limited in what I say, if there was a wiretap of the Russian embassy, that can only be done through a FISA court. That is supposed to be so highly confidential, top secret, sensitive, classified, whatever term you want to use. And if any American's name even appears, or any American's voice appears on that conversation or in that transcript, that has to be masked and shielded. That's absolutely required under federal law. For that transcript to be passed around,
unbelievable,
be shown that is a serious crime. So this isn't just complaining about a whistleblower. We're talking about someone who has violated one of the most serious, to me, one of the most serious statutes. I support the NSA. I support FISA. But one of the things we've always said is that there's absolute sanctity, that no American citizen's rights.
It's a police state otherwise. We have a police state. People right. leaking classified information to try to destroy the reputation of good people. I mean, that's not whistleblower. That's a felony.
And yet, if you or I raise that issue, we're considered apologists. We're trying to hide something. And that's not, this is a real issue. There's two things to me. Anyone who leaks should be fully prosecuted. Secondly, if there is anything involving Russia, fully investigated. But that front page story in the New York Times the other day, That's old news. I mean, that's been out there since last summer. Everyone knows that Paul Manafort had business in that part of the world. And the other two people they're talking about, one of them I barely know. The other one, I assume it's Roger Stone. I'm only using Roger's name.
So now you can't do business in Russia. Now you can do no business with anyone associated with Russia who might have an embed from the Intel community working inside. Just like we have import companies, it turns out it's a cover for an Intel officer. Like this happens all the time.
And also, in the world in which we live today, Laura, you take half the luxury apartments in New York are probably being bought up by Russians and
exactly.
China.
I'm not happy about that either, by the way.
No, I'm not either. That's the world we live in. This isn't the world that I grew up in, but that's the way it is.
Yeah, I want to go back to the Italian neighborhoods, and I liked it when Little Italy was more than like a half a block, Congressman. That's my old time in New York. I like that.
The whole thing. Yeah, I grew up in Sunnyside, in Irish neighborhood. We had the Celtic bar next to us.
Oh man.
The Lynch Funeral Home around the corner.
I was the Irish. You got the Irish, you got the Jewish neighborhood, you got the delis. That was my old. And now it's like the international playground for the rich. Congressman,
the thing is, if you're in business today, you're going to be dealing with Russia, you're going to be dealing with China, and so this is going to happen in any administration when successful people are brought into a cabinet. They're going to be able to show they've had contacts with people from Russia. That's going to exclude everyone. We're really, limiting ourselves.
And yet, you're hearing from very esteemed journalists and on even whispers from the Democrats that what the attempt here clearly is to delegitimize Trump by painting him as insane, out of control, and on the road to impeachment. I mean, this is the rumblings that we're hearing. There is a coordinated effort with George Soros money, with the Democrat activists, with David Brock, with some of the top Democrats to lead the road to impeachment. What's your reaction to that?
No, I think they definitely have that in mind. I think that's definitely what they're looking for, and that's why it's important for President Trump to get this administration moving. And he has to realize, my only advice to him, he doesn't need it because he got elected president, but if he could be a little more careful on the facts, only because they're going to jump all over them. And that's all. Don't have the unforced errors. But again, I think yesterday's news conference was a big plus for him. And nobody really cares who got the most electoral votes between 1988 and 2016.
No, in the end. So is House Oversight going to look into Russia? Senate going to look into Russia? Is this going to be the next Iran-Contra? I mean, what's going on?
Yeah, the Intelligence Committee under Devin Nunes, we've been trying to look into this now for several months. We're trying to get all the information from this that the CIA and the intelligence community had to make that conclusion that they did back in January, that the Russians were tilting toward Trump. And that, to me, is where it should be. So far, there's been nothing. Even in that New York Times story, buried in the middle of the story, says that there's no evidence of any criminal activity or collusion. Well, then what's the story? I mean, everyone knew that Paul Manafort did business over there. So what's and he left to last August. So to say that Paul Manafort talking to somebody in Russia swayed the election, but again, if this is the type of thing, if it was the other way around, it'd be McCarthyism, it'd be smearing, it'd be character assassination. Instead, it's enlightened journalism by those phonies of the New York Times.
Yeah, you won't give them a chance. They won't give him a chance. No, they're not going to give him. They're not going to give him any chances.
That is such a rag. I ruined my day by even thinking of it.
Well, Congressman, let me know when I can come up there and hang with the peeps up there in Long Island, because I like the Long Islanders. They're good people. A lot of good working class people of all backgrounds, and closer to the people I grew up with and the people down here in Washington. So
I'll take you to Seaford, Levittown, Lindenhurst. You'll love it.
Oh my gosh, I'm coming with you for a campaign event. Let's do that together.
Terrific, absolutely, my pleasure.
All right, we'll do it. Congressman Peter King, Laura, thanks so much. We appreciate it. You too. We'll take a break on the Laura Ingraham Show. Close it out. The rating of the rating of the press conference yesterday. What do you think? How did it go? Don't go away.
Yeah, selfishly, he's got an amazing power right there to just pick an item from time to time and just blow it apart. He goes, and one of my favorite things he would do one day would be, look, jobs, you guys lie about jobs. You don't even understand economics. Real jobs don't get created in Washington. All these politicians say they're going to create jobs. I'm trying to destroy Washington's ability to destroy real jobs
and real wealth
across this country. And real wealth, exactly. And just flip the narrative. He's already done it to unions. He's already done it to the black community. He can flip the Democratic Party out the door with all these stupid lies that they've been telling.
I love it. You know what, Greg? Greg, you know why that's good too is because it helps achieve what ultimately we want. We want that by 2020, when 2020 rolls around, we want Donald Trump to be in a position to have a Reagan 1984 style landslide. Because you don't change the world by winning the electoral college but not the popular vote. We want him to win the electoral college huge and the popular vote big. Landslide. And how do you get to a landslide? You got to really broaden out this coalition. Well, yeah, the Republican establishment wants everyone to know what they're really hoping for here is a gradual Pence takeover, a gradual move by the establishment into the West Wing, and the craziness of Trump is just going to ultimately be pushed to the side. How many of these people, like Joe Scarborough, were consistently right? How many, like Joe Scarborough, were consistently right during the election? I mean, because they're right now, correct? Their commentary is right on tap, right. It's straight now, right? That was August 2016. Oh, Joe Scarborough basically predicting Trump was going to lose. And we could play bite after soundbite after soundbite after soundbite from him and Mika and all these other characters they have on their show, the soothsayers on CNN, the geniuses on CBS. We could do that all day long. We should just do that, actually. Let's do that for one show. Let's just play all of their old sound bites, one after the other. And Trump talked about CNN, which, of course, CNN kind of likes it because if Trump doesn't talk about CNN, no one else is going to talk about CNN.
The tone, Jim, if you look, the hatred.
Acosta.
Sometimes somebody gets, well, you look at your show that goes on at 10 o'clock in the evening. You just take a look at that show. That is a constant hit. The panel is almost always exclusive anti-Trump. The good news is he doesn't have good ratings. But the panel is almost exclusive anti-Trump. And the hatred and venom coming from his mouth. The hatred coming from
sorry, but it's funny.
Other people on your network. Now, I will say this. I watch it. I see it. I'm amazed by it. And I just think you'd be a lot better off. I honestly do. The public gets it, you know. Look, when I go to rallies, they turn around, they start screaming at CNN. They want to throw their placards at CNN, you know. I think you would do much better by being different.
Well, I think he's right. I've got to say, I think he's right. CNN would do better if they just played it more straight. They'd do better. But Jeff Zucker's not going to do that. You see old Jared went over there and lectured them over at Time Warner? He either paid a visit or they visited him, and there was a big story in the New York Times today about how Jared Kushner complained about the coverage on... I'm of two minds of this because, you know what I want Trump to do at 10 o'clock at night unless there's a national emergency? I want him to rest. I'd like to throw out all the TVs from the White House. Just throw out all the televisions. Just no TV. That's not realistic. There's TVs in every office. TVs in every office over there. You know what I forgot about is how small that West Wing is. It was so funny to be there. I mean, I haven't been there since 2006, 2007. And it was funny because last time I was there, it was during the lead up to the debate about the border fence. And Bush didn't want to sign that border fence bill. Didn't want it. And he ended up signing it. Didn't want it though. It's not, everything comes full circle. It was fun to be over there though. I like a walk down memory lane. I'm like walking down to the conference room and saying, oh God, I remember this. And, because I worked there as a kid. So now I see all these kids walking around there. And it's weird. Do you know how you go back to a place you haven't been to in a long time? And then a place you were when you were really young, and it looks different. It looked bigger to me.
It's like when you go to visit your old elementary school, and like as a kid, it seemed like it was huge, right?
Yeah.
And then you go back and say, oh my gosh.
It was weird because, I was 22 years old. I'm now like 32. And to go back and walk those halls and then leave, and my old producer, Julia's over there. And I said in front of everyone, when Julia came to work for me, she was a liberal. She left as a conservative. You got to send all people over to work for me. They all leave as conservatives. They learn something. Oh my God, they were all howling. It was hilarious. But I said to Julie, Julie, it's like you're a little birdie. You're like my little chick, and you've gone and you've flown the nest, and I'm seeing you fly all on your own now. I love it. Oh, I teared up though. It was cool. And it was weird. Then I walked out. I'm not going to tell you why I was there. No, I'm not going to tell you. But I walked out of the side door that goes toward the old executive office building, and she walked me out, and she said, "It's great to see you, and it's always great to see you." And I walked by myself just down the West Executive Avenue, and I just looked around. I was like, "This is so." I mean, it's incredible that Trump won. It's incredible to be here all those years, 30 years after Reagan. I worked in the White House in 1987. 30 years ago. Yes, I've just told you how old I am. Now ask me if I care. I'm actually going to tell people I'm 62, because then people say, you look great for 62. I would never tell people I'm younger, because then they're like, you don't look very good for your age. But if you tell people you're older, they're like, wow, you look good for 62. But it was, I don't know, I got very nostalgic being back there. Sometimes you get a little nostalgic. It's okay. But I digress. We have a lot of people on the line who want to get into this conversation about the Kyle in Maine. I have to go to my friends in Maine because you're buried under a lot of snow up there, and you go stir crazy, and I feel like you just need a friend at this point in the winter. So Kyle, go ahead.
Yeah, that is true. We're buried under 3 feet of snow.
Oh my God.
So I watched ABC Nightly News last night, which I normally don't because
oh God, you're the only one watching that. Yeah.
No, this was a one-time out of since probably 2 years ago. But I watched one of the reporters and listened to the dramatization about the press conference yesterday, and it's just incredible. There's nothing positive that they have to say, they accused Trump of attacking CNN, but Obama did a fair share of attacking Fox News. That's for sure. So.
Wow. Well, I think again you see that divide, don't you, Kyle, between working class people who are just fed up. They're fed up with Washington. They're fed up with the consultancy class. They're fed up with the pollsters. They're fed up with the business as usual. They're fed up with, obviously, the old media. They're just tired of it. They're just tired. I think people are weary of the constant battle, and they just want stuff to work now. So, Trump's not going to be able to box, do this boxing forever. I mean, he's going to on occasion he can pop out and do the boxing, but now it's back to work. Now it's back to work. I'm glad he's going to Boeing today. It's very good. He's going down to South Carolina on the way to Florida. He's doing a rally in Melbourne, Florida on Saturday as well. So what's that, 5:00? Okay. So that's going to be, that's a good moment. The more you see Trump on the factory floor, the better. You want him out on the factory floor and give these people a sense that he is on their side. American jobs, American focus, and the media can keep their, caterwauling going. 855-40-LAURA. All right, we'll take a break. We'll get to all your calls, your reaction to this press conference. As a candidate for the NSA says no. He says no, he doesn't want to do it. He's a big old executive at Lockheed Martin, probably pulls down a couple $1 million a year, and he's living over there in the UAE, and he doesn't want to come back home and do this job. Well, I think that kind of tells us he wasn't the right person, doesn't it? Don't go away. Joining us now, Ambassador John Bolton, former UN ambassador. We're delighted he's with us on this topic and search for the National Security Advisor. Ambassador Bolton, good to have you on. What about this press conference yesterday, especially the chum in the water over Russia?
Well, I think you put your finger on it. They are looking for something in this hysteria that's going on that they can use to put some people in jail for conspiring to bring a foreign power in to influence our election. And I don't think it's far-fetched to say that ultimately they see impeachment, some do anyway, on the horizon. With all the trees that have been cut down to print newspapers bearing this hysteria, the New York Times itself on Wednesday said there is no evidence of cooperation between the Trump campaign or anybody associated with Trump and Russia to do that. So a lot of this, I think, really is just being made up. And what they do have, for example, Flynn's conversation during the transition with Russian Ambassador Sergei Kislyak, I don't think was improper, unethical, immoral, illegal. or unprecedented in past transitions. That's exactly what somebody in Flynn's position should have been doing, talking to foreign diplomats to give visibility where he thought it was appropriate on what a new administration was going to do. There's no allegation whatever that Flynn said anything that could be construed as trying to conduct American foreign policy.
Why'd they get rid of him,
before
then?
Trump became president?
Why'd they get rid of him?
Well, their feeling was that he had lied to the vice president and that he had breached trust. We don't know what the conversation was about, but if that was the president's decision, then it's certainly his call to make.
Well, I don't see how, if you say I didn't discuss sanctions when he didn't discuss sanctions, how that's a lie. I still don't understand that, but maybe there's something more to it. I want to talk about this.
Honestly,
Go ahead.
I don't think it would have been a problem if he had discussed sanctions.
Right.
I think that's what I don't get as to what was so illegitimate. What was interesting, really, is who taped that call between Flynn and Kislyak. And I think a lot of people have assumed it was our intelligence agencies. I'm not at all sure it wasn't the FBI. So the question now going forward is, what is Attorney General Jeff Sessions, now in office, what's he going to do to get the department under control? If it's, in fact, this is a politicized investigation, it's an outrage, and it needs to be brought to a stop.
Yeah, they got a lot of people buried in those departments, and you know that from all your time in government, Ambassador, who don't wish you well. Let's just put it that way. We dealt with it in the Reagan administration. I saw it at the Department of Education, the Department of Transportation, and even sometimes in the White House. And you got if you can't clean house of all the problem people, you've got to reassign them and cut them off of access of information. That's the only thing you can do. So they're going to find this out sooner rather than later. I got to get to this Harward issue, though, because Robert Harward turned down the national security advisor position. He decided to make that really public, which I find interesting. What about him? What does this mean? A lot of people in the establishment are saying that this was a real diss of Trump. What's your sense?
Well, it sounded to me like there were personal and financial reasons. Harvard served his country in the military for several decades. You're not going to get rich in that kind of job. His family probably enjoyed seeing him after all those years in government service. And so you can understand in his position that attractive though it might be, and I believe he's probably a patriotic person who would want to serve, it just wasn't right for him at this time.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think it's fine to say no, but I also think it seems I don't like the way it was all public, like said no to it, just the way it was publicized. I didn't care for it because it seemed like it was the way it was released was like a negative for Trump. Like he didn't want to be tainted by Trump. That's how it read, at least.
Yeah, well, and look, the president's adversaries are certainly portraying it that way. It's a long time since Roosevelt administrations when Dean Acheson resigned as Undersecretary of the Treasury, didn't make it public or anything, and some weeks later when somebody resigned with more controversy, Roosevelt said, go and ask Mr. Acheson how a gentleman resigns.
That's a really good point. What about you for NSA? Why don't we get you in there at NSA? You know how to tame the bureaucracy over there, John?
Well, it's probably best in these circumstances for me not to comment on it, but I do think it's a critical position, not to comment on my circumstances. Yep. And there's no one right way to do it, but the critical functions of that job are to make sure the president has all the information that he needs, all the arguments he needs, all the options he needs to make the right decision, so the advisor has to be an honest broker for him. That's sort of on the input side, but there's a corresponding need to enforce the president's decisions once they're made on, to be polite about it, sometimes recalcitrant bureaucracies. And I think we can see just in the first 4 weeks there's some recalcitrant bureaucracies already. And you need somebody, I think, who does know Washington and can make sure that when the president makes a decision, it actually gets carried out.
When drain the swamp is your mantra, your motto, I think people look at staffing very carefully and they see, well, we're really draining the swamp. It seems like you got some old Romney people in there, some old Bush people in there, and Not talking about you necessarily, but I think when you want to drain the swamp, it's a tricky deal because you do have to have someone who knows something about the way this behemoth of a government works. So it is a little tricky because you need somebody who's done it before.
Yeah, well, I do think that the right kind of qualifications for that job include not only the ability to handle all of the international issues that you're going to be confronted with, but also knowing the politics of Washington. That if you go in kind of naive and virtuous, unfortunately, you can undercut the president by your lack of experience.
Bingo. John Bolton, always great to have you on. Thank you. And they're great kids. Well, there are great kids who are stuck in overcrowded schools. There are great kids who can't find jobs when they graduate from college. There are great kids who are not getting into college. In-state tuition because other kids are flooding in because colleges want a DACA program for in-state tuition. They want a DACA program for scholarships, need-based and other scholarships. Immigrant studies, which include illegal immigrant studies. So I get it. I mean, life is tough all over, as the song goes. But America first. So showing heart to America. Making the way for prosperity for America first. But Trump's probably smart in messaging this in the way that he is. That was it was a nice moment for him. So I had to pack because I have to go down to Florida. I have to, I'm making it sound like a prison sentence. I'm going down to Florida, and I had to pack rather fast. I cannot sleep. I was up at 4 o'clock. You get my messages? I'm emailing all my staff, 4 o'clock, 3:30. I don't know what's my problem. I cannot sleep. And I don't like taking any sleeping pills. I can't do that. And that makes you have dementia. I already have problems with remembering things. So I got in the car. Carolina drove me in because I don't need my car. And I realized I was wearing
I saw those.
I was wearing my slippers is that the first step toward the home? I mean, I actually could be just making my first journey. If I show up, Drew, in a bathrobe and a hairnet, then Drew, I'm really...
Don't be like Trump now.
This is Exhibit A. This is Exhibit A.
Yeah,
in the committal.
Well, I have to get here by about top of the hour, and today I got here at 3 minutes after the hour.
4.
And 4 minutes after the hour, and I had to take a shower, and I didn't have time to dry my hair. This is the saga of a single mom with 3 kids and 3 jobs. That's all I'm going to say. I'm not whining about it. It's great.
The struggle is real.
It's a struggle, as Michelle Obama would say. It's a struggle. How's their wall, by the way? How's the wall going in front of their house over in Calorama? They were. I think Trump should get the specs on the Obama wall for the border wall. See how many people. Did you see their
prototype?
Do you see their catapulting bales of marijuana, like in one of those Roadrunner Wile E. Coyote catapults that they do on the Looney Tunes?
I'm glad you clarified that. I thought it was people being launched over.
Well, then that's next.
Right.
That's next. They're going to have the cannon where they put the small people in the cannon and you shoot them over the border. I mean, but didn't that catapult, that picture of the catapult, put that up on our Facebook page.
Acme Catapult Company.
Didn't it look 100%. Like the kaboom, when the Roadrunner will push the bomb and it go Acme Bomb Company. It looked like one of those cartoon catapults. And they're just, imagine if you're just walking along, maybe going on a nature walk, and all of a sudden, you look what I found. It's like 500 pounds of pot.
Just landed Thanksgiving in Boulder.
Yeah, landed, and suddenly you got a lot of high coyotes out there. The scorpions end up walking funny. I mean, it's wild. It's a crazy deal. But the slippers, it's an issue. Carolina says to me, "Did you bring any other shoes for the weekend? Any shoes that you're going to wear over the weekend?" It's like, oh my God, I can't believe I'm wearing my because
you're shuffling off.
Well, because I have my boot. Well, I'm supposed to be wearing my boot, but now my boot goes from my right foot with a hairline fracture. My left leg is now hurting from wearing the boot.
Yeah.
So now I'm bootless and both feet hurt.
Full scooter.
I'm going for what are they called? The Rascal scooters? What are those that they use at Disney World?
Yeah.
I want the Rascal. I want the 360 turnaround Rascal.
With the big gulp can holder.
I want the slot for the big deep fried drumstick. I want the slot for the big deep fried drumstick. Do you see those people walking around with the big old drumsticks? And it's like it's like an old emperor, like walking around with a drumstick, and then they're like, "Mommy, could I get the 20-ouncer?"
Right.
What?
Endless refills of
soda.
No.
And then half of the people, I get them mixed up for the characters. You know, the big bellies.
Right.
I'm like, wait, weren't you?
Are you the dancing bear in the? Hey, Yogi, come here.
What is it? Where's the bear exhibit called? Oh my God, Raymond needs to be here. He's only been to Disney like 47 times. The bear exhibit. I can't remember. All right, we got a lot of people calling in. By the way, I have a report about Jimmy. Jimmy's been at reform school. My dog has been at reform school now for 1 week. He's missed terribly.
Did they close the school?
Oh, I have gotten threats. Brian Kilcommons has called to threaten me several times. He said he did have to wear a muzzle. I said, well, we got people in Capitol Hill who need the muzzles. Give them to me and I'll walk them up to Capitol Hill. He said he had to put a muzzle on him a few times, but he seems to be getting along with his giant Mastiff. Pete, you love big dogs?
I do.
Brian has a dog, Sam, that weighs 120 pounds.
Okay.
Small compared to your
Smaller
standards.
than Francine was,
Yeah. Francine was a
Great Pyrenees. She was about 152 pounds, stood 5'10" on her hind legs.
Shoulder to shoulder.
Sweet
yeah,
dog.
Shoulder to
dog
shoulder.
ever. Yeah.
But they were worried about Jimmy getting along with the Mastiff, but now Jimmy's very submissive. He looked at that, he's like, I ain't fighting with that.
I'm not messing with that.
I'm not going around with that Mastiff Sam. Jimmy's like, hey, let me lie on my back. So we have a update from Brian.
So we need to get you a giant breed dog.
I think Jimmy, well, Annie's pretty big, but she's slender and she's meek.
Yes.
She's very meek. She's
Sweet.
not she's a sweet dog, but if you drop a book, you might as well have thought oh my God, I dropped the remote.
Kaboom.
I dropped the remote today in my bedroom and I was getting ready because I couldn't find it. You know, you lift up the bed coverings and it goes flying across the room. Went flying across the room. Yeah, my own catapult. Annie jumped up like someone just whipped her with a whip. She was like, my God, you like give me a heart attack every time you drop something. And your dog would just be like, give me another half a side of beef and I'll be fine. Let's go to
poor Skylar.
I don't know this DACA comment. Does DACA comment worry you from Trump yesterday? Then I hear that Acosta over at Labor, not there's concerns of him. He's a Cuban. Smart guy. I know a lot of people who know him, but is he a little squishy on the immigration
He is a little
issue?
squishy, Laura, because he is fighting for the American Muslims, which is nothing wrong with that. But he has
If they're American,
they're Americans, yes.
Okay.
But he's a very strong advocate of the Muslim community.
Okay.
So
Well,
it's a little different.
Is he a Cuban Muslim? I don't get that.
No. He's a staunch advocate for them.
Advocate for more Muslim immigration,
yes.
or does he want more foreign workers? What is?
No, not more foreign workers. He just wants to make
more
sure
Muslim
everyone,
immigration?
peaceful.
More American Muslims.
Yes.
Okay. Well, we'll see.
But he is Cuban. You're right.
Yeah. So we got the Latino box checked. That's checked there. So we got
Dean of Florida International.
We got that. Okay.
Yeah. Got the academia in there.
He's done other things. The academia just. Sharon in Texas.
That's
okay,
Obama-esque.
Sharon, I'm going to hold Trump accountable on the DACA and everything else, and you're not going to. To quote Jeb, you're not going to round up 3 million people and ship them out of the country. But Obama said the people had to go home. Obama said they had to go home.
Is your message don't come? Oh, our message absolutely is don't send your children unaccompanied on trains or through a bunch of smugglers. That is our direct message to the families in Central America. Do not send your children to the borders. If they do make it, they'll get sent back. More importantly, they may not make it.
Yeah, and he said it there, and he said it one other time. There's another quote also where he said that. They're going to have to be sent back. Except none of them have been sent back. Has a single person been sent back? You see how people are sick of this? You cannot say that if you come here and, you're cute, you can stay. Or you're cute and I'm a good person. Well, Nigeria is filled with great people. South Sudan, they get bombed out by the Islamists. These poor Christians have been brutalized in northern Africa, all across northern Africa. Brutalized, killed, burned, bombed. They all want to come here. Okay? They've been brutalized. They're good people. Then why shouldn't they all be able to come? I mean, I have a problem with a lot of those folks coming, frankly. They apply for refugee status. A lot of them deserve a break, and they would fit in with the American community. But this idea that you come illegally, and then because you're always a nice kid, who knows?
Right.
That's beside the point. The rule of law is what matters. And so, by the way, these Catholic churches harboring people, you know something? If you want to be a political outfit, then get out of business of churching. Okay, this is not you're doing politics here. I don't like that at all. And every time they send around an appeal for money from me, I say, well, how much of the money is going to refugees? Illegal refugees, not legal immigrants. They never get an answer. It's funny, they stopped calling me. Right. I said, really, how much of the money is going to resettlement of illegal immigrants? Person's like, God, I'm just paid $9 an hour to make these calls to try to get the money. Can you just let me go? It drives me crazy. Yeah. Sharon, I'm sorry, girl. I took a long time to get to you. It's the slippers.
That's okay. I'm so glad you brought up this thing about DACA because, and I did not like the mushy way Trump was talking when he was on the subject yesterday. And by the way, these are not all children. A lot of them are men, teens, 20s, 30s, men. And I don't like the mushy way he talked about it. And he said, oh, I have children and grandchildren too. Well,
who cares?
He had children and grandchildren 18 months ago when he first said he's sending them home.
Right. Well, I agree with you. I think we have to be very clear that we are a country with laws, and the laws apply to everyone. So whether you're a nice person or not a nice person, or you're tall, you're short, you're from Central America, you come from Bulgaria, if you're here illegally, you've overstayed your visa, or you walked across the border, you came on a boat, you're here illegally, it doesn't fly that way. It doesn't work. I agree with you. It sounded a lot like compassionate conservatism, George Bush style to me. I don't like that. It's not what people heard when he campaigned. So I understand being, having a heart. We all have hearts, but don't, because that's what the left does. They say you're heartless if you want to send these kids back.
Look how cute they are.
How many articles were written by Bannon's outfit at Breitbart about the real age of most of the people crossing the border? You'd be led to think there were 2-year-olds toddling across the border by themselves, just 2-year-old people. Meanwhile, they come, they're all tatted up. A lot of these people tatted up with gang tattoos in the detention centers. They're 15, 16, 17. We don't know what the background is. They have a piece of paper said, this is my contact in the U.S. We don't know if some of them have been human trafficked or they're plans for human trafficking or they just want to come to work. I'm sure a lot of them do, but you just can't trust that.
Right.
It's ridiculous. And it's unfair to the legal immigrants who are also good people. 855-40-LAURA. I don't want to rant and rave on this, but what I love when Trump said, they're going to say I ranted and raved. I know what you're going to do. You're going to say that I ranted and raved, and I know I have your number. I have all your number, and I'm not ranting. I'm having fun. That was funny. You're going to say I ranted. What did they do on Morning Joe? He ranted and raved. I'm like, he said you were going to say that. So it was kind of funny that he called them out before the headlines. I think we should check on Jake Tapper, though. And they say Trump's unhinged. If their ratings keep going down, when Trump says, look, you'd get better ratings if you actually were fair. But the ratings keep going down. Then what does it say about them? We'll take a break. Coming up, Jimmy at Reform School and what you can learn about your dogs with problems from Brian Kilcommons. Get your calls ready because a lot of you flood the lines and then you can all not get in. So be very prompt in how you call us on that because Brian will be joining us shortly here on the Laura Ingraham Show. Also, Kellyanne Conway is going to stop by inside the Trump White House. Is it all chaos and disruption or are they getting into their groove? Don't go away. We better tax those remittances. That money that they send out of the country, they've got to tax that money. But they say each illegal alien is a lifetime net cost to taxpayers of $74,000. It's a lot more than that. I think that's a low ball. $74,000? The public school cost? And I think that's... But yeah, so it ends up, if the wall stopped only 9 to 12% of the illegal crossers over the next decade, it would pay for itself in 10 years. That's a hell of a payment plan. That's a joke. That's awesome. If this is correct and it looks pretty realistic,